Advising President-elect Trump as he builds his cabinet is incoming White House Chief of Staff Reince Preibus, who joins me from Bedminster, New Jersey. Good morning, Reince.
Hey, good morning, Jake.
So let me start with Trump University. 7,000 people sued Mr. Trump alleging that they were defrauded. Mr. Trump said he would never settle, but on Friday, without acknowledging any wrongdoing or fault, Mr. Trump paid them $25 million to settle the case. Now, just a few weeks ago on this network, Trump campaign manager Kellyanne Conway was suggesting that Bill Clinton's $850,000 settlement in the Paula Jones case suggested that he was guilty. How is this settlement any different?
Well, first of all, it's a civil matter, but let's go back to where we're at on this operation. Back on Wednesday morning, Jake, the president-elect made a call to all Americans to come together. No matter who you are, your race, your gender, your ethnic background, he wants to make you proud of this country. He wants to lead and bring people together. You saw yesterday with Mitt Romney coming in, people like Ted Cruz the day earlier, the best and the brightest he's talking to. And all of that history he wants to put behind him and lead for all Americans. The Trump University issue is in the same vein, that, you know, when the presidency hits you and it's at your front door, and you realize that you're a president of the United States for all Americans, there are some things that are important to you and some things that you just decide, look, let's move on. We're not admitting wrongdoing, and let's just start leading this country without distraction. That's what you're seeing, and I think that Americans should look at this as a real positive sign about what kind of great president he is going to be and how he wants to lead this country.
Well, let's talk about that, about leading this country without distraction. Last week I had a lot of questions for Rudy Giuliani, a top Trump advisor, about potential conflicts of interest that the president will face if he does not put all of his assets into a blind trust. Now, I was told by Mr. Giuliani not to worry because the adult Trump children will run the business and they'll stay out of government. But since then, Mr. Trump met with the Prime Minister of Japan, and his daughter Ivanka, one of the people running his businesses, was there. In addition, the Washington Post reported that the Trump Hotel in D.C. is pushing itself onto foreign diplomats. And we also learned that the president-elect met with 3 Indian business partners who are building a Trump-branded luxury apartment complex south of Mumbai. All of this in the last week. As White House Chief of Staff, you're supposed to look out for any political or ethical minefields. Is it seriously the position of the Trump transition team that this is not a huge cauldron of potential conflicts of interest?
No, I think, look, Donald Trump has been very clear from the very beginning that his family is very important to him. And I think that while it's unique, it's certainly compliant with the law. And obviously we will comply with all of those laws, and we will have our White House counsel review all of these things, and we will have every I dotted and every T crossed, and I can assure the American people that there wouldn't be any wrongdoing or any sort of undue influence over any decision making. The truth of the matter is, and I can just tell you this even from the 4 days that are 5 days or so that I've been in a different role, Donald Trump makes the decisions that, in this operation. And while there are meetings that take place, it's Donald Trump that makes these decisions, and nothing should be further from the truth. And so I can assure you and everyone out there that all of these things will be followed and they'll be done properly.
During the campaign, you put out a statement saying that the Clinton Foundation represents a, quote, pay-to-play culture that would be on full display should Hillary Clinton be elected president. Are you at all concerned that Mr. Trump now could be depicted as somebody engaged in pay-to-play politics?
No, not at all, Jake. I mean, we've been at this for a few days. I mean, this is ridiculous. Let's just kind of take a deep breath. Let's look at what's going on. He made the call to bring all Americans together. He then met with many, many people from all walks of life. Safra Catz, General Mattis, Ted Cruz, Mitt Romney, and the list goes on and on. The point is, what Americans should see from President-elect Trump is someone who, by deed and action, from the moment he was declared the winner, he was on a mission to bring everyone together. That, to me, is what we should be celebrating. I think people should be encouraged by what they see. And I think it's a really positive sign for the future of our country.
Let's turn to Mr. Trump's pick for Attorney General, Alabama Senator Jeff Sessions. Democrats have criticized his record on civil rights issues and comments he allegedly made, though he denies it, about race years ago. I want to ask you a policy-related question about Attorney General Sessions, should he be confirmed. Under Attorney Generals Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch, the Justice Department has looked into local police departments, and their investigations found examples of systemic racism, and the Justice Department mandated reforms. Now, Senator Sessions has called such interventions an abuse of federal authority. Does that mean that under Attorney General Sessions, there will not be these kinds of investigations and federally mandated reforms of local police departments?
Well, first of all, I mean, that's a good question for Senator Sessions, but let me just hit this issue that you brought up initially, something he denies 30 years ago. Let's look at this man's life. I sure wish that people would judge me on my entire life, and I know that you and others out there watching wish the same. He started out his political career fighting George Wallace. He served an incredible career as a U.S. Attorney General, filing one desegregation lawsuit after the next. He prosecuted that person that was alleged to, in this story for the murder. He then presided over the execution of this person. He voted for Eric Holder. He fought for a congressional gold medal for Rosa Parks. This is an honorable, decent, good human being that we're talking about. I can assure you that if there's wrongdoing out there, whether it's on the streets or whether it's in the police department, no matter where it is, Senator Jeff Sessions is going to find it and bring justice to whoever justice needs to be brought to.
I guess my question, I don't want to get into a whole issue about, well, there's going to be confirmation hearings that examine all that, but he has called these interventions by the Justice Department into local police departments, he's called them intrusive. And I'm just wondering, for people out there who believe that there are issues with systemic racism in some police departments, with some police officers, not all, I'm wondering if they should expect that the Sessions Justice Department will not look into the behavior of local police departments.
Well, of course not. I mean, if there is, in fact, systemic racism, then I'm certain that he would. But I'm sure there's also cases where there have been intrusive investigations. Look, this is something for him to answer, but I can assure you that where wrongdoing is taking place, the Trump administration, along with, I'm sure, the soon-to-be Attorney General, will look into it.
Let's turn to your pick or President-elect Trump's pick for National Security Advisor General Michael Flynn. Take a look at what he tweeted back in February. Quote, "Fear of Muslims is rational. Please forward this to others. The truth fears no questions." Is that the official policy of the Trump administration, that fear of Muslims is rational?
Look, I think in some cases there are radical members of that religion that need to be dealt with, but certainly we make it clear that that's not a blanket statement for everyone, and that's how we're going to lead. I mean, these are, you know, when you think about immigration policy in that regard, what President-elect Trump has said is that where systematic terrorism is taking place, where countries are harboring, or in places where countries are harboring and training terrorists, we're going to temporarily suspend that immigration from that country or region until a better vetting system is put in place. This is similar to many bills that are right now sitting in the House and the Senate that either can't pass or the president won't sign. So our policies are going to be very similar to the policies that are in place, that are ready to get passed, and what President-elect Trump has already articulated.
I guess, I mean, I don't think anybody would dispute that fear of radical Islamic terrorists is rational, but that's not what the National Security Advisor said. He said fear of Muslims is rational, and as you know, national security experts discourage that kind of broad, sweeping, generalized language because these national security experts, Democrats and Republicans, say it's used by organizations like Al-Qaeda and ISIS to recruit terrorists. Do you worry at all?
And
Go ahead.
And President-elect Trump's opinion is that there are some people within that particular religion that we do fear. But he also has made it very clear that we don't believe in religious tests and that we are not blanketly judging an entire religion, but in fact we will try to pinpoint the problems and temporarily suspend those areas from coming into the United States until a better vetting system is in place. That's what we're going to do. That's what the president-elect believes.
Let's turn to sanctuary cities. The city of Los Angeles is home to about 500,000 undocumented immigrants. The chief of the Los Angeles Police Department said that he will not cooperate with federal agents when it comes to deporting them. Now, Mr. Trump has promised to, quote, cancel all federal funding to sanctuary cities. The city of Los Angeles got $500 million from the federal government last year. Will that money be cut? And when will that happen? Day one?
Well, that's something for the new administration to decide and something that we're all going to be working on and looking into. But I will say, as a general matter, I totally agree that sanctuary cities, I mean, the idea that a city would decide to ignore federal law and then want the federal government to help them anyway is an inconsistent position for those local governments to continue to engage in. And so I think this is a matter of negotiation. I think it's something that the Trump administration, myself and others included that are at the appropriate levels of government will deal with. But certainly I can't imagine that too many Americans are watching this and thinking that it's a good idea for a city to allow for blanket amnesty, ignoring federal law, and then saying, now give me $500 million. No, that's not the way life works. And I think that the Trump administration is going to explore this issue and I think resolve some of these major problems happening all across the country.
Well, let's be more specific with some of these individuals. Under President Obama, 750,000 so-called dreamers, young people who were brought into the United States illegally when they were children, so through no fault of their own. President Obama shielded them from deportation and gave them work permits. Mr. Trump's immigration plan says that that executive action will be terminated immediately. What happens to those individuals? Are they going to be about 750,000 brought into the country when they were children, illegally, but again, not on their own volition? Will they be stripped of their protected status?
Look, I think it's been very clear. This president is going to do a couple things first. First, what he's going to do is start working on legislation to build a border wall between Mexico and the United States, number one, to secure the border. I think everyone understands that, and quite frankly, most people agree that we need to secure our border and protect Americans all across our country. Secondly, he has said that we are going to do our best and get the best and brightest people together to remove the criminal elements from our prison system and folks that need to be removed from our country that shouldn't be here anyway, and are people that are not good people. But thirdly, what he's also made clear is after all those things are done, he will then look at what we're going to do and how we're going to deal with the fact that there are millions and millions of people are here that aren't bad people, and in many cases brought here by their parents when they were little. But that's a subject that's going to come up after those first two things are taken care of. And I just want to reiterate that because that's the position of President-elect Trump.
Reince Preibus, incoming White House Chief of Staff. That's all the time we have. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
You bet.